Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. What is a companion video? I'm glad that you asked. You see, every day on the John Campea Show and on open mics, we take live questions from the audience. But sometimes we don't have enough time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in. But I want to make sure you guys know those questions do get answered. So I gather up those unused questions and I bring them over here and address them in companion videos. So without any further ado, let's dive right into getting caught up on the questions now. And we're going to start getting caught up with Amy Argawa, who writes, as I get my things moved around, Tenmea Argawal writes, "Hey John, which movie has the best CGI of the year?" That's tough. Now this week, we talked on the John Campea Show about how the Academy announced its final 10. So they've narrowed it down to their final 10. And those 10 are, I think I've got a list of them around here somewhere. Yeah. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Avengers Infinity War, Black Panther, Christopher Robin, First Man, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, Mary Poppins Returns, Ready Player One, Solo: A Star Wars Story, and Welcome to Marwen. So those are the 10 finalists, and sometime in January they'll announce the actual 5 nominees. Who is going to win? You know what? It may not even get nominated. It may not even get nominated. I'm leaning towards First Man. Because the visual effects in First Man are so perfect, you never question the reality of them. Like, the visual effects in First Man are so perfect, you just never catch yourself ever questioning the validity of what you're seeing. As a matter of fact, a movie like First Man, there are so many visual effects, and yet 99% of the time, you don't even realize you're looking at a visual effect. And that's kind of the hallmark of great visual effects. Now, obviously, movies like Solo: A Star Wars Story or Avengers Infinity War or Ant-Man and the Wasp do a lot of visual effects, but a lot of times those visual effects are just animation or what have you. And they have, like, Thanos in Infinity War is amazing on its own. And I think Thanos all by himself is going to get Avengers Infinity War a nomination. But I think if it was down to me, I'd probably go First Man. It's not the best movie on the list, but we're not talking about best movie. We're talking about best visual effects. And the visual effects in First Man are just basically flawless. Absolutely flawless and perfect and impressive. And again, it may not even get nominated. But right now, if I had to pick one, I'm picking First Man. All right, the Chum Bucket writes, "Have you checked out Anna and the Apocalypse?" Nope, I still haven't checked it out. It's funny, me and Robert and a couple of other friends of mine have been talking about Anna and the Apocalypse for months. And I still haven't had a chance to run out and see it. So no, I still have not had a chance. But it still remains high on my list, but I still have not had a chance. All right, Zombatron 5678 writes, "Chance's Mysterio in Far From Home is actually tricking Peter into doing bad with his mind-altering powers. I think it would be one big plot twist." Yeah, I mean, look, it's possible. Like, Mysterio, look, there have been several incarnations of Mysterio, from different guys using the name Mysterio to Mysterion, and a bunch of other different things. In the earliest incarnation of Mysterio, he utilizes hypnosis and tried to, like, drive Spider-Man crazy at one point. The thing is, how many times have we seen the good guy is mind-controlled, made to do bad things? I mean, we've seen it done so many times. Look, and you can do something like that with a villain like Mysterio, and it fits. I'm just a little tired of it. So, are there chances for it? Absolutely. But are they even going to say that this Mysterio that they're using in the movie even has any mind-altering powers? I don't know that that's even a guarantee. Remember, the original Mysterio was a visual effects artist that decided to leverage his skills at illusion to do crime, right? So, I mean, I don't know. It really depends on the approach. So, first of all, we don't even know if this Mysterio is going to have mind-altering powers. And if he does, do they do that kind of plot device that's been done a dozen times? I don't know. Possible? I'm going to say unlikely, but certainly possible. Let's see what happens. All right, Chris Miner writes, "Favorite movie from the Vacation series? Christmas." Nope, my favorite is just the original. The original is still my favorite. And Christmas Vacation's great, but And I'm sure, you know what, if you polled a lot of people on that, Chris, I'm pretty sure you'd probably get a pretty close to 50-50 even results on that. I think a lot of people like the original. A lot of people like... And I'm going to go with the original. The original is still my favorite to this day. All right. Patrick Conway writes, what trailer gave you more chills? Infinity War, Lion King... I think you mean Lion King, not Lion Kingdom. Or Logan. Ooh, for me it's Logan. Hearing Hurt was bone-chilling. Man, that Logan trailer is simply one of the best trailers I've ever seen. I'm not saying Logan is one of the best movies of all time. It certainly was the best movie of last year. But that trailer... I mean, I don't know. There have been few trailers that have had the impact on me like that Logan trailer had on me. Few trailers ever have had that kind of an impact on me like that one did. Lion King, huge response, but I mean, and also global worldwide response. But you know what? And obviously that one Infinity War trailer, spectacular. The one that they first show Thanos bringing down his hand and Captain America catching his hand. I mean, that's amazing too, but yeah, I got to go with you on this one, Patrick. I'm going to go with Logan on that. Ben Rayner writes, I cried when I heard that theme in Elseworlds. I think I know the theme you're talking about. There's a scene in Elseworlds, which for those of you who don't know, Elseworld is the name of this year's annual Arrowverse crossover event, where they did 3 episodes. And they actually shot on the set of Smallville as Superman's Kent Farm. Not Smallville's Kent Farm, but they use the actual same set, and then when they cut for the first time to the Kent Farm with this universe's version of Superman, they actually played the old theme song from Smallville. Somebody save me, right? And it got a lot of people excited, very stoked. Then some people were disappointed that it wasn't actually, the cast. It wasn't Michael Rosenbaum. Or why am I freezing on the name of the... I like this actor too, the guy who played Superman in Smallville, who played Clark Kent in Smallville. Whatever. A lot of people were disappointed it wasn't him, but it was a pretty cool little ad to put in there. I liked it. All right. Akash Telly writes, saw Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom last night. Enjoyed it more than the last one, but didn't like the reveal much. Well, first of all, I am with you. I like Jurassic World: The Fallen Kingdom better than the first Jurassic. And I like the first Jurassic World. I actually thought Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom was the best Jurassic Park movie since the first one. The first one is clearly the best one, obviously. But I honestly thought Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom was the best one since the first one. I honestly don't know what the reveal is. I don't know what you mean by I didn't like the reveal. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. And by the way, the earlier question about best CGI, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom has to be up there too. Because damn it, those dinosaurs looked... It was remarkable. An absolute remarkable achievement. The visual effects in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. You may not love the movie, and that's fine. But the visual effects were just damn spectacular. Damn spectacular. Patrick Conway writes, going to the movies tomorrow, Aquaman or Spider-Man? Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the best animated film of the year. It is the best comic book movie of the year. And yes, I include Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Aquaman, Ant-Man and the Wasp. I include them all. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the best comic book movie of the year, in my opinion. Other people may disagree, and that's fine. But that's not me casting any shade on Aquaman. I like Aquaman. I think Aquaman's a win for Warner Brothers and DC. Thumbs up from me. But there's not many movies I would take over Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse right now. I've seen it 3 times already. I just can't. I'm floored by the quality of that film. So Spider-Man. Blake Carson writes, I'm planning on a double feature, but if I had to pick just one, Aquaman or Bumblebee, both franchises are iffy to me, but these movies both look great. And you know what? You're right. Bumblebee and Aquaman are both coming out of franchises that are on shaky ground, right? I mean, the DCEU, number of films, only really one truly worked across the board, and that was Wonder Woman. I liked them all, but most of them failed to achieve success across the whole board. Box office success, audience success, critic success. Only one really knocked it out of the park, and that was Wonder Woman. Uh, Bumblebee's coming out of a very beleaguered, battered, and beaten Transformers franchise that has been run into the ground. Again, only one really successful one, and that was the first one. The others have had big financial success, absolutely, but they've been train wreck garbage of movies. So you're right; they're both coming out. They're both coming out of franchises that are on shaky ground, and they're both winners. I think these are both winner movies. I'm going to give the edge to Bumblebee. Personally, I liked Bumblebee a little bit more. Shocked how much. I mean, look, I said coming in to the end of December, if I had to pick what two movies I thought would be the best ones, I would have thought Mary Poppins and Aquaman. Turns out, neither of those two are my two favorites. My two favorites are Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Bumblebee. Mary Poppins was good, but not great. I was actually a little bit let down with it. Don't get me wrong, it's good. Mary Poppins Returns is a good movie, and I think many of you will enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I just didn't nearly enjoy it even close to as much as I thought I would. And Aquaman is a winner. But I was very surprised how much I liked Bumblebee. That shocked me. And how much I liked Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So, yeah, if I had to pick between Aquaman and Bumblebee, I'm picking Bumblebee. But then go see Aquaman, because it's also a winner. Okay, let's see. Go Robot writes, great directors that you can't get into. Mine is Guy Ritchie. Oh, I love Guy Ritchie. Shane Black. Oh, I love Shane Black, although his Predator movie sucked. And Darren Aronofsky. Woo! Yeah, man, those are some good directors, all of which have had a swing and a miss. I mean, Guy Ritchie has not crushed it with every movie. Shane Black, clearly with Predator, his recent Predator movie did not knock it out of the park. And Darren Aronofsky's not for everybody, but he makes some great films. For me, it's always been Tim Burton. People love Tim Burton, and I have just never been on the Tim Burton train. Now, that's not to say that he hasn't made movies that I haven't liked. He has made a couple of movies that I've enjoyed quite a bit. But just overall, I'm just not into the Tim Burton style. I find his movies very predictable. You can tell a movie is his immediately because he's only got one way of doing things, it seems like. But that's just me. A lot of people love him and adore him as a director, and I respect that. But yeah, that's one director who's considered one of the greats that I just can't get into, and that's Tim Burton. Although I gotta say, man, I'm looking forward to this Dumbo movie. Even though I shouldn't be, because his Alice in Wonderland was just hot garbage. But I gotta say, I am looking forward to this Dumbo movie. The trailers got me. The trailers got me hooked. All right, Go Robot writes, James Gunn would be a great Deadpool director. I think there are several directors who would be great at directing a Deadpool movie, but you're not wrong. I mean, if they announced tomorrow that James Gunn was going to direct Deadpool 3, which I don't even think is ever going to happen. I don't even think they're ever going to make a Deadpool 3. I'm hoping they do, fingers crossed, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. But if they announced that James Gunn was directing it, I would go, yes, that's a good choice. There are other good choices as well, but I would be excited for the James Gunn one. All right. Jay Liang writes, over under 33% that none of the upcoming movies dominates the box office, i.e. they all make something like $45 million each. Well, I mean, we're going to find out. I'm recording this on the weekend, so it is early Sunday morning. So in just a couple of hours, the box office report should be coming out. The box office report should be coming out in just a few hours. And it looks like Aquaman is going to dominate. I mean, not like $130 million opening kind of dominate, but Aquaman is going to dominate the opening weekend box office. That's for sure. It's not going to be, it's not going to come close to record setting, and that's fine. It doesn't need to. But I think Aquaman is going to, kind of ahead above everybody else, is going to be the clear winner of this weekend. Now, will it have legs? Will it ultimately see? I'm still suspecting, even though Mary Poppins isn't as good as I was hoping it was going to be, I'm still suspecting that in the long run, Mary Poppins may make the most money at the box office overall. But as far as just this weekend goes, I think Aquaman will be the clear definitive winner. That's my guess. We'll find out in a couple of hours if that's true or not. All right. Doug Cowell writes, use Cena as U.S. agent. He's a bureaucrat's vision. The problem is, this all stems about from, there was this rumor going around that they might be looking at John Cena to play the new Captain America, which I don't believe for a second. And it doesn't matter. No, you can't put him in as anybody. Because while I like John Cena, and I believe that if you can put John Cena in the right small role in your film, that's right for him and matched to him, he can knock it out of the park. We've seen that in a couple of comedies. He can do that great. Unfortunately, we've also seen in a couple of films, Blockers and now Bumblebee, that he is not yet ready to take on a big role in a film. He cannot carry a big role in a film. He was the weak link in the chain in Blockers. He's the weak link in the chain in Bumblebee. That's not to say that I don't think he has potential. And that's not to say that I don't think he can do anything in movies right now. He can, and he can succeed, but they got to be smaller and they got to be suited to him. And maybe he'll get to the point where he can lead a film and take on a leading kind of role and carry a movie on his exceptionally large shoulders, but he's not there yet. And it doesn't matter what character you make it, he can't do it. He just doesn't have those acting chops. And, I'm going to cheer for him. I'm going to cheer for him because I'm a fan. But he's not there yet. So it doesn't matter what role you give it. He's just not a good enough actor yet. That's the bottom line. Robert Perez writes, Tom Hanks says he'll hang out with Anne only if you release your breakdancing video. Does Anne get to spend the day with Mr. Hanks? Well, look, when I got married, my life became about my wife. My life became all about making my wife happy and, giving her the best life that I can. So as much as it would kill me and humiliate me to release my old breakdancing videos, if Tom Hanks said he would spend the day with Anne, I would release my breakdancing videos. If I can even find them now. I mean, I think they're in this box in the cellar at my parents' place. I mean, if I can find them, I would do it. I mean, I would do anything that would be a dream of Anne's to spend, even just have a coffee with Tom Hanks, even just to meet the man and shake his hand. That would be a lifelong dream of my wife's, because Big is her all-time favorite movie, and she just adores anything and everything that has to do with Tom Hanks. So I would do whatever it would take. So if I can make that happen, I would make it happen. Okay. Robert Perez writes, Ray, get Mr. Hanks on the phone. Yeah, because I or Ray have that sort of power. Wouldn't that be great, though? Marie Seifring writes, thoughts on Oscars considering having no host? I've heard about that, but you know what? It's just awkward to not have a host. And once you get away from having a host, how do you go back to getting a host? To me, the host is part of the tradition of the Oscars. Now, in today's times, it's very difficult because everybody wants to witch hunt everybody else. As soon as somebody gets in a position, there are tons of people out there that are then going to start going into heavy private eye mode, and they're going to scour their social media, and they're going to try to find something to knock them down with. Okay, whatever. That's just the reality of the era we live in. I don't know. Let's put it this way. I don't think they'll go with no host, and I certainly hope they don't. It's just breaking too long of a tradition. So I would be against it. But whatever, it's just the show. I guess it doesn't really matter, but I would personally be against it. All right. CDAT's CDAT as in guy over there, okay. Speaking of Captain America, Chris Evans' first movie, Not Another Teen Movie, is 17 years old today. This came in last week. Oi, was that his first movie? Hold a second. Was that Chris Evans' truly his first movie? Let me get in here. Okay. He was in... Opposite Sex TV series. He was in the Fugitive TV series. He was in a movie called The Newcomers in 2000. I don't know if that was a wide release film, though. Kate Bosworth was in it, Elizabeth Duff. I don't know that was a wide release film, but it was a movie. Then he was in one episode of Boston Public. I used to watch that show when I was younger. Marilyn Manson, Tainted Love, really his first major film was Not Another Teen Movie in 2001. I didn't even peg it at that. That's interesting. For some reason, off the top of my head, I thought he had more before that. Learn something new every day from the film fan community. Thanks for sending that in, man. And wow, 17 years old. Unbelievable that movie's 17 years old. Jake Michael writes, do you think the Scarlet Witch show could help introduce mutants into the MCU? No. Remember, I get it. I know in the comic book, Scarlet Witch is a mutant. In the movie, she's not. She's not a mutant. They haven't had mutants there before. They created her a different way through experimentation and blah, blah, blah. They kind of bestowed that on them, on the twins. So there really makes no more sense to use Scarlet Witch to do it than anybody else. In reality, there's no point in doing it. Now, saying that they could use any of the MCU characters to try to introduce mutants, that means Scarlet Witch has as much of a chance as anybody else. But would I say there's more of a chance that they use Scarlet Witch as that opening avenue? I would say no, because that's simply not what her story in the MCU is. She's not a mutant. So I don't think that's the way they'll go. But she has as much of a chance as any other character, but no greater of a chance. No greater of a chance. Fleming Peterson writes, rewatch Infinity War / Black Panther, I'm guessing. Bucky is set up as White Wolf in the MCU. No, he's not. No, he's not. All that was okay. At one point, you hear at the end of is it Infinity War or Black Panther? It's at the end of Black Panther. I believe it's the end of Black Panther, where Shuri goes to visit Bucky, and one of the children refer to him as White Wolf. And then later, T'Challa refers to him as White Wolf. But that is not, he's not becoming White Wolf. They're not doing that. That was simply a little to the audience that knows the comic books. That's all that was. They were not setting up anything else any more significant than that. It was just a wink to the audience. So I wouldn't get too excited about that. Now, does Kevin Feige have the power to make that happen if he so chose? Of course he does. But don't take that as anything. That was simply a wink from the filmmakers to those who know the comics as a little Easter egg sort of thing. It really doesn't mean anything more than that. So no, you're not going to see Bucky reemerge as White Wolf. You're not going to see them do that. At least I don't think. Anything is possible, though, as we have learned in this business. All right. Alt Productions writes, what do you think Oliver sacrificed in Elseworlds? I got to watch the scene again. Once again, Elseworlds, the CW Arrowverse crossover. Near the end, in the final episode, I believe, Oliver is talking to the Monitor and makes some kind of deal. And I got to watch that scene again, because I don't know if he was specifically called on to sacrifice something that then becomes revealed later, or if he had to sacrifice a way of thinking. I mean, I just don't know. I saw the scene once, but obviously there was significance to it, and you, Alt Productions, just asking the question proves there's significance to it. I got to go back and watch it again. So until I watch it again, I got to say I'm not sure. But if you guys have theories as to what it is specifically to sacrifice, if he sacrificed something, jump in the comments section. I'd like to read what your guys' thoughts are. All right. We move on now to Lloyd Bridgman, who writes, I saw Aquaman and didn't enjoy it. Soundtrack is bad. Any drama is lost once you notice they're swimming. So many cheesy moments. I'm going to disagree with you, Lloyd. And I think the majority of people disagree with you, which is fine. There's a lot of movies that the majority of people love that I don't. So there's nothing wrong. Come on in to the minority. It's totally fine being here in the film fandom minority. Not a problem at all. Yeah, I did enjoy it. I thought the soundtrack was actually pretty good, except for that Pitbull Rains in Africa piece, but it didn't pull me out of the movie. I like the musical choices. Not a soundtrack I'm going to run out and buy. Are there cheesy moments? Yes, but I kind of think that was by design. And for the most part, other than the octopus playing the drums and the ESPN scoreboard and a few of the emotional moments that didn't work out as well, there are certainly moments in Aquaman that don't work for me. I mean, let's be clear. There are certainly moments and things about Aquaman that don't work for me. But overall, I thought it was quite an entertaining package and a great reintroduction to the Aquaman character in this movie universe. But as we're always saying, Lloyd, you know what? Not every movie's for everybody. I keep telling, Roma is going to get a Best Picture nomination this year, and there are tons of people raving that it's not only one of the best films of the year, there are a bunch of really smart people saying it's one of the best movies they've ever seen. And I watch it, and I had a hard time getting through it. It's a beautiful piece of art, but I didn't find it all that compelling. It just didn't work for me. But hey, that's what it is. Film is subjective, man. Every movie's going to hit us all in different ways. Just because a lot of other people liked it doesn't mean you need to, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you for not liking it. I did. I think a lot of other people will, but it's not a perfect film, and so it's not going to be for everyone. Jordan Benjamin writes, "Hey, John, love the new studio and love the show with Robert on. Thank you so much. Over under 35% that Shuri never dusted and she will be Black Panther. I'll take the under on that. I don't see how they don't know she's still alive. I don't see that. Particularly there was a theory that she would become the new ruler of Wakanda. That didn't make sense to me either, because if M'Baku wanted the throne, he has the right to challenge for it, and there's no way Shuri takes M'Baku in a fight. So that ain't gonna happen. Also, Shuri has no desire to rule. She's a science nerd, man. She wants to be in that lab. She wants to be creating. She doesn't want to govern and rule and all that kind of stuff. So I don't see her being the new Black Panther. Not to mention, according to the movie, they destroyed the last of the flowers, so she can't become Black Panther anyway. But, they'll figure out a way to get it back in there. But theoretically speaking, there are no more of the flowers to give somebody the power of the Black Panther. And I don't see why it would be her. And, she would have to be challenged for it, and she would lose. Easily, she would lose. So, all the things, I just don't see why she would go underground as a result of Infinity War. I just don't see that. So I'm going to take under 35%. Now, I wouldn't say it's a 0% chance, but 35 is a really high number. I'll very comfortably take the under 35% on that. Stubble McShave writes, what about having Adonis face an MMA fighter in Creed 3? No, that would be ridiculous. No boxer can take an MMA fighter. Sorry, it's just the way. No boxer can take an MMA fighter. That is why no boxer will get into an MMA cage with a real fighter. That former heavyweight boxing champion tried to do it with Randy Couture, and Randy Couture spanked him so badly, first round, choked him out, done. That's why, Floyd Mayweather, the only way he would fight Conor McGregor is in boxing. And of course Floyd Mayweather is going to beat Conor McGregor in boxing, of course. But I'm telling you right now, Floyd Mayweather doesn't last 30 seconds. And I'm not exaggerating. 30 seconds tops is how long Floyd Mayweather would last in a cage in MMA rules with a Conor McGregor. It's just too much. A boxer will have no idea how to handle a takedown. Will have no idea how to deal with their legs getting chopped down into bloody bits. They would have no idea how to deal with any of that stuff. And that's why you don't see boxers coming into the cage. You'll see MMA fighters go and try to fight in boxing, and they'll always get outclassed in a boxing ring against somebody who does nothing but focus on boxing. Of course they're going to outclass them. But in an MMA ring, no. No boxer will ever be able to beat a professional MMA fighter in the ring. Just can't happen. So, no, that would be ridiculous. That would be absolutely ridiculous. And why would Adonis face an MMA fighter? He's a boxer. Why would you have Adonis Creed fighting an MMA fighter? That, to me, doesn't make any sense. So, no, don't see them doing that. Jordan Benjamin writes, you may have mentioned it, but how did you feel about Cena and Bumblebee? Well, I just talked about it a little bit earlier. Hope you've seen it. If it's not a British fiver towards the channel. Well, yeah, again, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I will mention it again. Cena has moments in Bumblebee that he executes lines pretty well. However, he also has a lot of moments where it's like, this is not an actual actor. And Cena is getting into acting, but he's not a real actor. He's going to try to become one. The Rock wasn't a real, actor for a while, but he became one. The Rock is a legit actor at this point. And John Cena, nothing says he can't get there. But he ain't there yet. And it became really obvious when he takes on big leading kinds of roles, like in Blockers and like in Bumblebee. It becomes really evident, which is unfortunate. Now, hey, I believe he can get there. Because I believe in smaller roles, in movies like Trainwreck, Sisters, when he just has small things to do and they're really suited to him, he can crush them, especially comedically. He's got some comedic chops. But right now, he just doesn't have the talent to take on larger responsibilities on screen and to do a more diverse and wide range of things. And it becomes kind of evident that he's weaker. And I don't think he's awful, but he's weaker. So, we'll see how he evolves over time. We'll see. Remember, Channing Tatum used to be awful, man. Like, just awful. I used to call Channing Tatum the worst actor in Hollywood consistently getting work. Today, I look forward to Channing Tatum movies. Today, I look forward to his movies because he's evolved so much. He worked his ass off and he's evolved and he's gotten better and better and better. And now he's one of the guys I look forward to seeing too in movies when he's in a movie. Legit. Maybe Cena can become that too. He's just not there yet. And that's kind of my thoughts on it. All right. Ali Hussein writes, I enjoy CW Elseworld crossover. Ruby Rose's Batwoman was a great casting. Do you know if CW has greenlit the Batwoman TV show yet? As of right now, it has not. That doesn't mean they're not going to. But as of right now, the Batwoman show has not been greenlit. They were kind of going to use, like we knew going into Elseworld, that they were going to use Elseworld to introduce Batwoman, see how it works, and see how the audience responds to her, and then kind of decide. I will say, though, I was a little bit surprised. Like, I knew she wouldn't have a big major role, but she had a smaller role to play than even I thought they would have her. It's very small. A handful of lines. And that was it, really. So, I don't know if they were hoping to get... I mean, I think most of us as audience members don't really know. I liked it, too. You clearly liked it. I liked it. But I think for most of us, we're like, that wasn't a big enough sample size to get excited about it. Nor was it a big enough sample size for us to feel like it doesn't work. But it just wasn't a big enough sample size. I feel like they should have had her in it a little bit more. You know, not as much time as Green Arrow or Flash or Supergirl or Monitor or whatever. But, I mean, she really wasn't in it much. So, I don't know. They may have privately made up their minds. But as far as I know at this point, no green light's been given yet. That doesn't mean it's not going to come. It very well may. And I like the casting too. I liked her in the role. But again, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. All right. Dustin Barton writes, I'm a new parent and going to the movies is really hard. I imagine it is, man. Will movie theaters ever offer childcare or will we ever rent movies in theaters at home? I don't think you'll ever rent movies that are in theaters at home, at least not in the next 10 years. It's just counterproductive to what the theaters want to do. As far as offering child service, that's difficult on several levels. Let me give you one or two of the smaller reasons, and then I'll give you the big reason why that's a problem. Little reason number one, square footage in movie theaters is at a premium. Where do you put a child care? Where do you put one? You got to dedicate space, and every square inch of movie theaters are dedicated to something. Theaters, concession space, storage, whatever, but having the physical space to have childcare is a challenge. Obstacle number two, staffing childcare. Because you got to get childcare professionals, and you got to pay those people. That becomes, and believe me when I tell you, don't be deceived by these big movie theater buildings and, plush leather seats. The margins of movie theater owners is razor thin. Even at the best of times, movie theaters are barely surviving. Even when things are going great, they're just getting by. And to introduce an expense like that, that's significant. That's significant. Let me tell you what the biggest obstacle would be to movie theaters having childcare. This will be the biggest obstacle. Lawsuits. Lawsuits, 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 lawsuits. Because you are just asking for a world of trouble and problems. Say, yeah, I'll watch your kid, stranger. I'm a stranger you never met. Because all it's going to take is one kid in the daycare to kick the other kid in the daycare in the shin, and the parents are suing you because you were responsible for these kids. My little Billy came home with the sniffles. He didn't have the sniffles. I'm just telling you right now. I worked in churches, man. And even churches, it was always like childcare was a huge deal, and everybody was always paranoid about it. Offering childcare is one big legal nightmare. The potential for just getting your ass sued off the slightest thing. Uh-oh, little Cindy Lou tripped and scraped her knee. It doesn't matter that that's reasonable, that kids trip and scrape their knee. All it takes is one jerk-off parent to go, I'm going to sue you. You were responsible for my child, and my child got injured. And I get it. Parents hyper protective and everything. I get it. I'm not condemning that. I get it. I do. However, it is that reality, besides the practicality of where do you put it, besides the expense of having to staff it with trained people, you're just asking for a litigation nightmare. And I think on that basis alone, you're never going to see a major chain announce chain-wide childcare. You may get the odd little theater here and there that will want to try it. But I don't think you're ever going to see like a Regal go, now in every Regal theater, childcare. It would be great if you could, but man, just the potential downsides and the potential nightmares. I mean, offering daycare could destroy you. I mean, really. So I don't know. Anything's possible, and maybe some legal protections could be introduced. I don't know, but just off the top of my head, that makes it to me seem very unlikely. It makes it seem very unlikely to me, but who knows? Let's see what happens. Let's see. Callus writes, I want your opinion on this. The biggest evidence for agenda pushing in entertainment is how CW handles super... Oh, no, that's bullshit. And I see where you're going, but it's bullshit. But let me get through what you're asking. They spell out that Kara is stronger than him every chance they get, putting strong women message before story. All right. You guys know that one of the things in entertainment, first world problems, one of the things in entertainment that pisses me off to no end is the radically irresponsible, flagrant, and destructive BS way that CW has handled Superman in relation to Supergirl. They brought in Superman, who is the granddaddy of all superheroes. That DC wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Superman. You can make an argument for Batman as well, but if Superman wasn't there, there would be no DC. And Supergirl is just a derivative character of Superman. It's true. And the way, I'm not going to go into my full rant. You guys have heard me speak about this. The way that I am just completely pissed off, and fuck you, CW, for the way you've treated Superman. We all know the reason they brought in Superman was to make Supergirl look good. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's nobody out there who's as angry about that as me, as far as in fandom goes. I am the most pissed off about that out of anybody. That doesn't piss me off. But to say this is evidence for an agenda, no, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. It just so happens that they're desperately trying to put over their character by bringing in a bigger character and making the bigger character look subservient to your character that you're trying to put over. The fact that one's a woman and one's a guy is irrelevant. That's completely irrelevant. You have to want to see an agenda in that for there to be an agenda. The only agenda here is they're trying to put over their character. And I get that. My argument is you don't need to put over your character by diminishing another character. Look at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, right? They put over Miles Morales without having to diminish the Peter Parker character. They elevated and highlighted the Peter Parker character and elevated and highlighted the Miles Morales character without having to put down one or the other. Also, the Gwen Stacy character in Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse. Don't worry, I'm not giving away any spoilers here. But they elevated and highlight and shone a spotlight on the Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse without having to put down Miles Morales or without having to put down Spider-Man. Right? They elevated and highlighted and shone a spotlight on Spider-Gwen without having to diminish Peter or Miles. They did that for Miles without having to diminish Peter. There's a way to do that. I get wanting to elevate and highlight your character. I do. But what I do not agree with is elevating and highlighting your character at the expense of I want to be careful how I say this. Out of a much more important character, which is Superman, the granddaddy of all superhero characters. Because of the 50-50 split in this one case on Supergirl, one's a woman, one's a guy, that is not evidence of anything. You have to want to see an agenda there for there to be an agenda. Again, the only agenda at play there is them wanting to put over their hero by diminishing another greater hero. That's the only agenda. The gender there has nothing to do with it. Although there is a lot of gender stuff in Supergirl. There absolutely is. But this isn't one of those cases. And again, you didn't see them do that with Gwen Stacy. They didn't need to do that. They don't do that with Gwen Stacy. They didn't need to knock somebody else down in order to elevate Gwen Stacy. So no. This whole thing about this is evidence. No, it's just that one happens to be a woman, one happens to be a guy. The agenda here is they're trying to put their one character over by sacrificing another. Regardless of gender. Regardless of gender. So, yeah, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. And nobody is as pissed off about how they treat Superman than me. If you guys have watched my show, you know this. But nah, that's not it. That has nothing to do with it. Okay. Alex Bosey writes, replacing Captain America, let's be honest, Canada is the real world peace country. Let's use Captain Canuck. What do you think, John? Hi from Edmonton. Obviously kidding. I love Edmonton. I used to go out there every once in a while, watch hockey games. I used to go to Oiler games with my buddy when I was living in Saskatoon. My buddy had Oilers season tickets. I would drive out there every once in a while to go catch a game. Always good stuff. Yeah, again, this is all, what Alex is talking about is, again, going back to the whole, the rumor that was going around last week that they might be replacing Chris Evans with John Cena as Captain America. And while John Cena certainly has the physique to be Captain America and that chiseled square jaw for sure, dude's also, he can't act good enough. And with somebody who's as good of an actor as Chris Evans, you don't replace him with somebody like a John Cena. Not yet. Talk to me again in 5 years. Maybe John Cena's in a different place in 5 years. But right now is not quite the place or the time. All right, let's see. Tinisflato Mendoza writes, you guys think Ant-Man was on live side of Snap or survived because he was in the quantum realm? Well, we've addressed this before, Tinisflato, but I'll finish reading your question here. Apparently, security feed at the end of trailer is tagged archive and dated 1983. Yeah, I don't really think that means anything. I really don't. I think it is as it appears to be. I think he just shows up at the gate one day when they thought he was gone. They assumed he was dusted because when the dusting happened, he disappeared. So, and then he showed up at the gate. And we already know he's a part of everything because we've seen those set photos where he appears with Captain America and with Iron Man with the little devices on their wrists, right? We've seen those pictures. So we know that's part of it. So really, I think that's about the extent of it. Now, whether he's alive because he's just a natural survivor of the snap or because he was in the quantum realm, My opinion on that is he survived just because it was a coin toss. And I think he's one of the people that survived. You know, remember, he was in a group of 4. At the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Scott was in a group of 4. Him, Hank, Hank's wife, and Hank's daughter, right? When the snap happens, odds are 2 of them will dust, 2 of them will survive. But 3 of them dusted. That even increases the mathematical odds even more that Scott would survive. So I believe, and I could be wrong, I wouldn't be willing to put money on this. I won't be surprised at all if we go into Endgame and Scott reveals, because I was in the quantum realm, I was in a different state of reality. And what was ever in the quantum realm survived the snap. Maybe they say that, but right now, if I had to put $1 on it, I would bet that he just survived because he won the coin toss. 3 other people he was with didn't, but he did. So that would be my guess. But fortunately, we're only a few months away from finding out what the actual answer is. And maybe it'll be one thing, maybe it'll be other. I'm leaning towards he just survived because half the people survived and he happened to be one of the lucky half. Let's see here. Alex writes, John, I just want to hear you. Nope, not going to say it. I will never say that. Sorry. As a born and bred Toronto Maple Leaf fan, which is weird because my little brother is a diehard Montreal Canadiens fan. For those of you who do not know, the nickname of the Montreal Canadiens is the Habs. Why is it the Habs? That's a very good question. Google it. How do you get Habs out of Montreal Canadiens? Go Google it. But I will never know. I will never utter that phrase, Alex. I will never utter that phrase. Not as a Maple Leaf fan. No way, no how. All right. Bullet1510 writes, will Captain Marvel's cat Goose actually be a Flurkin? I don't know. Now, clearly, they're highlighting the cat. Now, for those of you who don't know, in Captain Marvel, the cat is actually an alien creature that Rocket has a problem with. I think Rocket and this alien race have a problem with each other, but that's another story for another time. The only reason... Let's put it this way. Let's say we had not seen the Captain Marvel trailers, and you asked me that question. My guess at that time might have been, yeah, they might show her having a cat, but I don't think they'll get into the alien nature of the cat. However, having seen the trailers, why do you highlight a pet cat in a trailer? Really? What's the point of highlighting a cat if it's just a pet cat? What's the point of that? So on that basis, and I admit that's shaky ground, but for now I'm going to go with it. On that basis, I do believe the cat is not just a cat. All right, let's move on here. David Goldstein writes, is Crisis on Infinite Earths worth a read? Yeah, as a matter of fact, Robert and I talked, if you don't know anything about Crisis on Infinite Earths, Robert and I talked about it a bunch the other day. Because, I don't think it's the greatest story ever told in comic books. It's good, though. It is good. But it's one of those comic stories that its importance outweighs even the quality of it. Because it's such an important, it's a historical shift, if you will, of DC making a completely different shift in going from the big multiverse and bringing it all into one thing. It was probably... Some comic book historians say it's the event that saved DC. On those bases alone, it's a good comic story for sure. But just on the basis of it's such an important event in the history of comics, on that basis alone, I would say, yeah, man, check it out. Check it out when you get a chance. All right. Bullet1510 writes, Goose versus Rocket Raccoon showdown in Endgame. As we was talking about in the comics, Rocket and the cat have an issue and all that kind of stuff. Will they get into that? Well, I do not think Rocket Raccoon is in Captain Marvel. And even if the cat is not just a cat, does the cat survive into Endgame and does that become another thing? I mean, look, I don't know. At some point, you can't throw more things in. And look, as much as I love Infinity War, and you've heard me talk ad nauseum about how great Infinity War is, but as great as it is, the one glaring problem with the film is that as a film, and as an audience member, I was constantly very aware of how stuffed full this movie was. And there are points where it did suffer a bit from it. At some point, you have too many characters and you have too many storylines going on and too many little side things. And sometimes there are things that really should be explored more, but you don't have time because you got 18 other things you got to explore and look at. And blah. And sometimes the movie felt a little top heavy to me. The Russo brothers did a masterful job of making it work anyway, but I was always very aware. You ever see that old Monty Python sketch? I think it was from The Life of Brian, where this huge fat guy is having this massive dinner in this expensive restaurant, and then the maitre d' brings, "Oh, sir, one more mint. Here's a mint for you." And he's like, "No, I can't. I'm stuffed." "Oh, it's just one little mint. Look how delicious it looks." Fine. Then he eats the mint and he explodes, right? That's kind of like what I felt with Avengers Infinity War sometimes. It's like it was just on that edge of just collapsing under its own weight and exploding. But it didn't. They kept it together and they did a masterful job. So again, getting into it, do you introduce that too on top of everything else? I don't know. Maybe they do. If Kevin Feige came up to me, and thank God he doesn't do this, but if Kevin Feige were to come up to me and say, "John, I need your advice. Do you think we should go with this and throw this into Endgame?" I go, "Look, you don't already have enough to do in Endgame. You got to throw in Rocket versus a cat. That's got to be there too." So I would suggest they don't do it, but hey, let's see what they do. Let's see what they do. All right. Tath Threefold writes, Aquaman is about to cross 200 million in the box office by today, according to Forbes. It's crazy that they've almost met their budget without even being released in the States yet. That's actually not crazy at all. Look, these big blockbuster films, roughly speaking, tons of exceptions, but roughly speaking, you make half of your budget in international markets and half your budget from domestic. Sometimes you make a lot more money in your sometimes you make a lot more money in your international release than you do at domestic. Sometimes you make a lot more in your domestic than you do international. At any rate, Aquaman's been out for a little while now in a lot of countries. It's not all that crazy. Just remember, you roughly need to make triple your budget to break even. So if your budget's $100 million, roughly speaking, tons of exceptions, but roughly speaking, you got to make sure you make about $300 million to make sure you break even. You make $150 million, you got to roughly guess you got to make $450 worldwide to break even. So they've got a long way to go, but it's a good start. It's a good start. Just don't get too excited about that number yet because it's opened in a lot of territories already, and it's been open for a little bit in a bunch of territories. So that's not actually all that overwhelming of a number. But really, let's see how it does domestically. And I think it's going to do well. I think it's going to do well. All right. Ali Hussein writes, I rewatched 40-Year-Old Virgin, my all-time favorite comedy, tied. Because I keep 1 and 1A keep switching for me. 40-Year-Old Virgin and Noises Off with Christopher Reeve, John Ritter, Carol Burnett, Michael Caine, on and on and on. Anyway, I rewatched 40-Year-Old Virgin. I never noticed that Jonah Hill. Yep, Jonah Hill's in that, trying to buy the boots with the goldfish in them. Jonah Hill's in the movie, and Kevin Hart until now. It was a really long time ago that I watched the movie. Yeah, Kevin Hart's, of course, the guy. This your boy? This your boy? I'm gonna have to give me that. I'm gonna need you to give me that extended warranty for the price of On the House. That's Kevin lines, and Kevin gets in this big argument with Damoni, and then Steve Carell. It's a great scene, and also Jonah Hill, a much unhealthier Jonah Hill. This is back Jonah Hill about 150 pounds ago. He was much bigger, but nobody knew who Jonah Hill was yet at the time. And he's the guy who walks into the "We'll sell your stuff on eBay" store. He's trying to buy the glass boots with the fish that have water in them and a fish living in them. He's trying to buy those boots. I believe that was the boots. It might have been something else, but it was boots he was trying to buy. And yeah, that's Jonah Hill. That's Jonah Hill, man. Oh, I love that movie so much. I could talk 40-Year-Old Virgin all freaking day. All right. Ali Hussein follows up with, choose one and lose one. Shawshank Redemption or Lawrence of Arabia. Both of these films in my top 10 of all time. Both Lawrence of Arabia and Shawshank Redemption are in my top 10 films of all time. However, this isn't a difficult decision for me. Shawshank Redemption. as great and iconic as Lawrence of Arabia is, I think Shawshank Redemption is even better. Shawshank Redemption always, I sometimes do some rearranging of my top 10 a little bit, but Shawshank Redemption is always above it in my list. So if I got to choose one and lose one, as much as it would pain me to lose Lawrence of Arabia, because it is one of my top 10 of all time, I definitely am keeping Shawshank Redemption. I'm definitely keeping Shawshank Redemption. All right. Gabriel Barreto writes, have you heard Avengers Endgame is most watched in history? First of all, nobody's watched it yet, but I'm going to guess that you mean trailer. I say this all the time. It doesn't really mean that much. It doesn't really mean that much. You know, for example, tons more people saw the Avengers Infinity War trailer than saw Star Wars The Force Awakens trailer. But guess which one made more money? The Force Awakens did. One of the most viewed trailers in history was 50 Shades of Grey. That is not one of the biggest box office movies in history, though, by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, so is it a good sign when that many people watch a trailer? Obviously it is. Obviously it is. But does it really mean anything? No, not really. So, you know, when the Star Wars The Phantom Menace trailer comes out, blah, blah, okay, that's great. That's fun to talk about. You know, when it came out, it was like the most watched, but it didn't ultimately really mean anything. Sure, the movie went on to become like the third biggest grossing film of all time, but it wasn't because of the amount of people who watched the trailer. So it's cool to talk about. It's a fascinating number, but more and more people are watching trailers online every year now. And ultimately, it's because people want to watch a trailer and maybe want to watch it 50 times. That doesn't automatically mean it's going to equate to box office. We've seen that proven many times. In the case of Endgame as well, look, this movie in its sleep is going to make $1.5 billion. May very well be the next film to cross and join that $2 billion club. So this is a movie that unequivocally is going to be a massive, massive hit. But that still would be true even if nobody watched the Endgame trailer. Even if nobody watched that trailer, this movie is still going to be a big, massive hit. So I don't put a lot of significance on it one way or the other, regardless of the movie and regardless how big the numbers are. Tennis Flado Mendoza writes, saw somewhere, spoiler alert, Hawkeye kills Thanos, only a farmer can kill a farmer. Yeah. Look, one of the most interesting thing, if not the single most interesting thing of the Endgame trailer, and let's face it, that trailer, there's really nothing to the trailer. It's the trailer, I dub it the people sitting down looking sad trailer. That's the whole trailer. The whole trailer is, look, here's one shot of somebody sitting down looking sad. Now here's a shot of two people sitting down looking sad. Now here's another person in space, but sitting down looking sad. And then, ooh, Hawkeye comes on screen and he's standing looking sad. Big change of pace there. And then, of course, Ant-Man shows up at the end. Amazing juxtaposition against everything else in the trailer to the end. I thought that worked really great. But yeah, one of the most interesting things to me was that Hawkeye reveal. So that's cool. So it would be kind of neat if like one of the absolute no power guys is the guy that takes down Thanos. Wouldn't that be interesting? I think that would be interesting. A little Batman in there. I think that would be cool. Colt R writes, and this is the final question of the day, guys. Colt R writes, I just watched the Lego Batman movie and found it hilarious. I love that movie. That movie's great. With you being a DC fan, I'm surprised I didn't see a review from you on it. Oh, I did. I reviewed it. Yeah, this was back in the day. Back when I still worked at another place that shall not be named. But yeah, I did a review. I spoke on Batman, the Lego Batman movie several times. I love that movie. I thought that movie surprised me so much. I don't know that I like it as much as the original Lego movie, but that's a tall order. That's a really tall order, but I love that Batman movie. I thought it was wonderful. Did not make anywhere near what it deserved to make at the box office. As a matter of fact, let me just pull it up here. Lego Batman box office. Let me just see what it says here. Made $312 million, which isn't, I mean, that's not bad. That's good. But the Lego movie, hold a second. The Lego movie, which came out before it, where is it? Made $469 million. And so the Lego movie comes out, makes $469 million. For argument's sake, we'll call it 470, right? It makes $470 million. One of the most popular characters in it was the Batman character, was great in that movie. So they make his own movie, and it's almost as good as that Lego. You'd think with as much as people love that Lego movie, that even more people would have gone out to see Batman. And they didn't. Despite fabulous reviews, despite the audiences loving it, it took a massive dip. It took like a 25% dip. Totally surprising and really unfortunate. That movie deserved to make more. I feel very, very secure saying that I believe that movie definitely deserved to make more than that. I really do. It was so much fun and so great. But yes, make no mistake about it, I did indeed review that movie. So there you go. All right, guys. That will do it for this installment of the companion videos. Listen, if in case you're wondering, it's like, wait a minute, I thought there were some other questions. There are more questions I got to get around to, but I'm going to address those in some other companion videos later this weekend as well. So I will get caught up on more of those. But that's all the time we have for today. We've gone a little bit over an hour. Thank you for joining me here, guys, and for sending in your questions and all that kind of stuff, and hanging out with fellow film fans, talking about movies. I'm glad you did that, guys. Listen, that'll do it for me. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.